Ve'et chanan el Adonai be'etahi lemor. Moses, at the beginning of Parshat Ve'et Chanan, while telling the story of the Israelites in the desert, says, I pleaded with God at that time. Adonai, Adonai atah hachilotala harot et avdecha et godlecha v'et yadecha chazaka asher mi el bashamayim uva'aretz asher ya'aseh k'ma'asecha gvurotecha e'ebra na ve'er et ha'aretz ha'tova asher be'ever hayarden. God who is so incredible, Moses says, whose powerful deeds nothing can equal. Let me please, Moses says, let me please cross over and see the good land on the other side of the Jordan. Vayitaber Adonai bi, lema'anchem velo shama elai. But God didn't like my request and was wrathful with me on my account. God would not listen to me. God said, Rav lach, you have much. Al tosef daber elai od b'davar hazeh. Stop talking to me about crossing over into the land. Do you remember that? God, good old days in the desert. Moses strikes the rock 2 times. Like that wasn't like sinned somehow in that moment out of anger. And God was like, oh, you are being punished and you may not cross over to the land. And Moses was like, bro, come on, let me cross. Look what I've done. Look who I've been for you. Do you remember when Moses exclaimed that to God? You don't remember that. Do you know why? It's not in the Torah. Moses did not reply to God saying, please let me enter the land, like Moses is claiming here in Parshat Ve'et Chanan. And I pleaded with God at that time. I'm thinking like, okay, that's odd. So this plea, chet nun nun is the root, in hitpa'el form, in sort of like in a reflexive, intensive form, is found only one other time in the Torah. I thought, all right, let's go see what's happening there and maybe we'll get a clue as to why something that didn't occur in the story is being told as if it did occur. And I was led back to the story of Joseph and his brothers when there's a famine in the land and the brothers go to meet Joseph, who's at the top of Egypt. And he says, he knows it's them and they don't know that it's him. And so he's got a plan to figure out who they are now. I'm gonna keep them all here, send them and send them back for their younger brother. And this is how that story is told. If you are being honest, Joseph says to his brothers, let one of the brothers be held in your place of detention while the rest of you go and take home rations for your starving households. But you must bring to me your youngest brother, Benjamin, that your words may be verified and that you may not die. And they did accordingly. And they said to one another, alas, we are being punished on account of our brother. Asher ra'inu tzarat nafsho behit chanano elenu velo shamanu. We are being punished on account of our brother because we looked on at his anguish, but we didn't pay attention to him when he pleaded with us. Meaning, the 11 brothers are saying we're being punished because when we threw Joseph in a pit, he pleaded to us, please get me out of here, and we did not pay attention to what he was pleading with us. Do you remember that moment when the brothers threw Joseph in the pit? And the Torah tells us that Joseph looked up out of the pit. I don't know why I'm doing the invisible box thing. And Joseph looked up out of the pit and was like, brothers, please get me out of here. Don't do this to me. Do you remember that like beautiful, heart-wrenching moment in the Torah? You don't, because it didn't happen. Both times the verb is used in the reflexive, intensive form in the Torah. It is a plea, one that goes unanswered, because Moses never crosses the Jordan and Joseph didn't get out of that pit. And it is also somehow a retelling of a story that wasn't in the first version. Either never happened or didn't make the cut into the text itself. So when something like this happens, when there are stories in the Torah being told that seem to come out of nowhere, or when we are given new information like this, then we have to ask ourselves the question, what is the point of bringing this up right now? Why is Moses telling the Israelite people that he pleaded to God, and not only did God not listen, God said to him, Rav lach, you have enough. Joshua is going to be the one who goes forward. Why? Why either make up the story or decide to bring it in? Here are two possibilities. One, the lesson that Moses is teaching the Israelites is that none of us is exempt from the consequence of our actions. Even me, Moses, God's beloved and frankly preferred servant, my lesson to you, Moses teaches, whether you are sitting as a congregant, a sitting clergy person, a sitting mayor, a sitting minister, sitting on a hilltop, a sitting prime minister, a sitting president, we are all to be held equally accountable. Had God reversed God's decision, we may have thought this fact untrue. We may have thought that the more powerful you are, the fewer divine guardrails there are to that power. Moses is saying, even me, even I am held responsible for the decisions that I make. Lesson number one. Lesson number two. Some moments require praying for the story itself, not my preferred or even deserved place in it. Perhaps one of the most important messages the Torah can send us today is that this divine story is far bigger than any one of us, though each of us is eternally important. My personal story, your personal story, it's always an essential part of the collective one. The burden of being an individual in a collective story is to appreciate and celebrate that critical role, but to always gaze beyond our own perspective, to know the bigger picture. And this, I actually remember, Dahlia, from your bat mitzvah and your drash, in which I think you talked about your great-grandmother Ruth, if I'm not mistaken, who was a Holocaust survivor. And the question you were asking us is like, could she have ever imagined my story? How is my story connected to her, and how will my descendants' stories be connected to me? And the answer was, yeah, actually, we're all connected to something far bigger than ourselves. So what Moshe Rabbeinu, what Moses, our teacher, is demonstrating to the Israelites by talking about his own plea on his own behalf to cross over into the land, what he is saying to you and to me, Nitzavim Hayom, here today, what he is teaching us is what humble leadership and citizenship ought to look like. Moshe, the most humble, the Ha'ish Moshe Anav Me'od, he is saying, when I prayed for all of you after your idolatrous sin at the mountain, it worked. God relented. When I prayed for you, my people, after the scouts despaired, it worked. God reversed course and spared most of your lives. After each complaint you threw at me in the desert, at God, during this long 40 years, my prayer for you, Moses says to his unwieldy flock, they were answered because it's about us. I need you to know, Moses says, by including these verses in his retelling, whether it happened or not, when I made it about me, no matter how strong my argument, no matter how much I believed I deserved the reward of entering the land for my previous service to God and God's chosen, all the personal sacrifices that I made for God and for you, God told me, Rav lach, I have enough. God asked me to own my exponential worth as I am. And then Moses is teaching us, telling us, God asked me to reframe the way in which I understand my role in the eternal story. Moses, God responds, the Sinai covenant cradled and nurtured in the desert is not about you. It's about this people, stubborn as they may be. You matter, Moses, my humble servant. You deeply matter. You always will, whether you are here or whether you are gone. But my project is the story and its people, B'nai Yisrael, that they survive and that they thrive. This is our work as leaders, as citizens, wherever we sit, to matter and contribute to the ever unfolding of this remarkable story. And maybe more importantly, as individuals woven into a collective, Jewish and human, we are all always a part of a story that is more than our own. We are both in the middle and on the edges, here or gone, and we ought to act accordingly. Shabbat Shalom.